Hello there, and welcome back to the channel. I'm doing something a little different this week. This is the very first OHL Power Ranking from the booth. I've been watching the Power Rankings with the OHL on their social media feeds, and I had some questions about some of the rankings and with the CHL Top 10 as well. And I figured, why don't I just put my own Power Rankings together instead of just debating about where a team should be? I should just put out my list, and then you can let me know what you think in the comments section down below. This is just all about some fun conversation about how the teams have been doing over the last week. And we'll get things started with number 20. It's the Windsor Spitfires. They've been in a bit of free fall. They went 0-3 over the last week. They're right now riding a 5-game losing streak. Tough times down at the WFCU Center. Over the weekend, they were outscored 24-7 in the 3 games. And that included an 11-2 loss against the Kitchener Rangers on Sunday. So the Spitfires, it's a very tough stretch. They're a younger team. Also, the road trip they were on, going from Erie Saturday night to then playing Kitchener Sunday afternoon. Even the best teams, they'll find that a challenge. It's a 4-hour drive plus the border crossing from Erie to Kitchener. So no easy task. And for the Windsor Spitfires, definitely need to turn things around. And that's why I have them at number 20 on the power ranking. Number 19, we're not at 14 yet. Number 19, I went with the Flint Firebirds. They got their first win of the season over the weekend against the Sarnia Sting with that 6-4 win. It was a big win because then they lost to the Guelph Storm in dramatic fashion. It was like 4 seconds left in the game when the Guelph Storm scored on the power play. So for the Flint Firebirds, they went 1-2. Zachary Giroux, he had a good week. 1 goal, 2 assists. So there are some positive signs for Flint. So maybe this could be the start of something to turn their season around, because of the Flint Firebirds, they do have some good talent on that squad. But right now, number 19 on the power ranking. Sitting at number 18, the Erie Otters. They went 2-1 over the last week. They got wins against the Niagara Ice Dogs. That was an overtime victory. And then Windsor, before losing 8-3 to the Mississauga Steelheads. That was a tough loss. Mississauga, though, they've been one of the top teams in the Ontario Hockey League early on. Kerry Torrance, he had a big weekend. 2 goals, 2 assists, good for 4 points. So the Erie Otters, they're a team that they're really wanting to make the postseason this year. They've got some good young talent, and Torrance being one of them. He's trying to lead the charge. So they do have 2 wins on the season now. So they're slowly creeping up there, and that's why I have them at number 18 on the OHL Power Ranking. Sitting at number 17 are the Niagara Ice Dogs. Are they turning things around? They're 1-0-2 over their last 3 games. That includes a 4-0 win over the Kingston Frontenacs on home ice. Kevin He, 3 goals in his last 3 games. So if the Ice Dogs are going to turn this around, Kevin He will be the player, I'm sure, that will lead by example. The Ice Dogs, when they were in Barrie, they had a bit of sloppy play, but you could tell that they're a hardworking team. They're trying to overcome some obstacles. I think chemistry is still a factor with Niagara, but if they can start getting things together, string some points, who knows? Maybe the Ice Dogs could be challenging for a playoff spot. Maybe they're not going to be that pushover team like we saw last year. I know a lot of people in their preseason predictions saying the Niagara Ice Dogs would not make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. So something to play for with Niagara, and right now 17th in the power rankings. At number 16, I have the Brantford Bulldogs. They lost both of their games in a home-and-home against the Peterborough Petes. That included a 3-2 loss in overtime Saturday. Now, for that game, it's going to have some interesting ramifications going forward, because it ended with a line brawl after the overtime winner was scored. There were 2 fights, 38 minutes in penalties, and 7 game misconduct. So at this point of recording, I haven't heard of any suspensions as of yet. You have to figure the office of the Ontario Hockey League reviewing that whole situation. That's something we haven't seen quite a while, a line brawl at the end of a hockey game. So Brantford, Peterborough, the 2 East Division rivals, getting quite familiar with one another. So that's going to be a rivalry to follow as the season progresses. So right now, I have Brantford at number 16. So I have to wait and see what happens next for them, because they play the London Knights Wednesday night. So that will not be an easy task, and that's at the Brantford Civic Center. Coming in number 15, the Oshawa Generals. They started a 3-3 weekend in a huge way. They defeated the Saginaw Spirit by a score of 6-4, but then lost in Barrie 7-1, and then to North Bay 5-2. So it seems as though they just put everything out on the ice Friday night when they were taking on the Saginaw Spirit. Dylan Rubrick, he had a 5-game point streak going into the game Saturday against the Barrie Colts. That was snapped. But this is an Oshawa team that's still missing some key players. Callum Ritchie not expected to be back in the Oshawa lineup until early November. And then McIntyre went down with an injury in the game Friday against Saginaw. So we'll have to wait and see what happens with the Oshawa Generals. They have some good talent. They just need to get healthy and maybe string some points. And, good signs there when they're playing against the Saginaw Spirit. Coming in at number 14, the Kingston Frontenacs. The week started with a win against the Windsor Spitfires, but it quickly fell apart with losses in London and Niagara. It was a tough 3-3 road trip because they were on the road. You go all the way down to Windsor, the WFCU Center, then Budweiser Gardens in London, and then Meridian Center in St. Catharines. That is not easy, but they're also dealing with a lot of key injuries. Jacob Holmes, he's out of the lineup. Malik McGowan, and then Linus Hemstrom, he's out of the lineup. He played the first 2 games and then was out of the lineup against Niagara due to injury. And he's been having a good season so far with Kingston. So if they can get healthy and maybe get some confidence, it just seems like the performance right now lackluster with the Kingston Frontenacs. So they do have another 3-3 coming up this weekend, and it starts at home against the Sioux before traveling to Guelph and Owen Sound. So a busy time of year right now for the Kingston Frontenacs, and that's why I have them at number 14 in the power ranking. Sitting at number 13, the Guelph Storm. They're kind of a middle-of-the-pack team. I know they started 3-0, but they've been kind of win one, lose one, going back and forth. They went 1-1 over the weekend, including a dramatic win over Flint. That was with 4 seconds left in the game. So excitement there in Storm Country. But they do have a 3-3 this weekend. They're going to be playing the Barrie Colts Friday night at home, and then they host Kingston before traveling to Oshawa. So the Guelph Storm, still a strong team, but right now I have them 13th in the power ranking. Sitting at number 12, the Peterborough Petes. This may be a team that should be higher, and I think it's because the East Division, bit of a slow start. All 5 teams right now, no one's really taking that lead as of yet, but there's one team I haven't mentioned yet that did take a big step over the weekend. We'll see if they can continue that. But in the meantime, the Peterborough Petes, 2-1 over the week. That included an overtime loss at home against the London Knights. So it's just waiting to see what kind of team the Peterborough Petes are going to shape up to be, and also waiting to hear about the suspensions, if there are any, from that brawl against the Brantford Bulldogs. So we'll have to wait and see what happens on that front. So the Peterborough Petes, I do have them at number 12, and they're also going to be playing a 3-3 this weekend. First against Sault Ste. Marie Thursday night before taking on Ottawa and Oshawa. Coming in at number 11, I have the Owen Sound Attack. They lost in overtime to Sudbury to open the weekend, and then they shut out the Sioux Greyhounds 4-0. And that hasn't been easy. The Greyhounds, one of the hottest teams to start in the Canadian Hockey League, but Carter George getting his first career OHL shutout. He right now has a 181 goals against average and a 943 save percentage. I love Carter George. I think he's going to have a big season in the Ontario Hockey League. Watch out for Carter George and company. They also have a 3-3 this weekend. So it's going to be it's a busy schedule for a lot of teams this upcoming weekend. They play against the Kitchener Rangers Friday night. That's at the Odd before taking on the Brantford Bulldogs and the Kingston Frontenacs. So I have Owen Sound at number 11. That's a team I think that's going to be climbing quickly up the power rankings if they can continue these hot games and get that consistent goaltending. And you've got Colby Barlow back in the lineup. So for Owen Sound, I think that's a team with a lot of potential going forward. Coming in at number 10, this might surprise some people. I have the Saginaw Spirit, and hear me out. There's some concerns coming out of the last week. They defeated Flint last Wednesday 2-1. That was a very low-scoring game. And that was their only win over the week, because then they went on the road and lost both games in Oshawa and Mississauga, and they were outscored 10-7 in those 2 games. Plus, Michael Misa left the game early against the Oshawa Generals after taking a hit from Dylan Rubrick, and he also didn't play Saturday against his brother Luke Misa against Mississauga. So some concerns maybe building with Saginaw. They do have a big game coming up against London this weekend. So the Saginaw Spirit, I have at number 10, and that's just because they haven't had that consistency yet. And this is going to be a good team. Don't get me wrong. I think the Saginaw Spirit are going to be a powerhouse in that West Division. But right now, I think they're number 10, right in the middle in the OHL for power rankings. Number 9, the Ottawa 67s. It looks like the Barber Poles may have arrived. They weren't playing a lot of games to start the regular season, so I think for me, I didn't put them as high in the power rankings. But they just went through Northern Ontario and had an amazing run. They went 3-0 against North Bay, Sault Ste. Marie, and Sudbury. They outscored their opponents 10-3 for Dave Cameron, the head coach of the Ottawa 67s. He's got the team playing right defensively. The systems are down pat. Luca Pinelli, 3 goals on the trip, and then Max Donoso with a 29-save shutout against the Sudbury Wolves. So watch out for the Ottawa 67s. I think that's a team that's going to climb, and maybe they'll be the representative from the East Division again. Remember, they were the regular season champs last year, and some people thought maybe they were a little ahead of the curve last year with that young lineup. So wait and see what Ottawa can do this year, because I think the 67s, they're in for another good year, and maybe this is the start of things to come. Number 8, I have the Sudbury Wolves. There was a lot of high expectations coming into the season. They do have Quentin Musty and Javril Toure back in the lineup. They returned Friday when they took on the Owen Sound Attack. Won that game in overtime, but then lost 4-0 to Ottawa. So you win one, you lose one. That's been the trend, it seems, for the Sudbury Wolves. They're not living up to those preseason expectations as of yet. Chemistry might be that issue because people are now coming back from their NHL camps. You do have some new faces in that lineup, so the systems are still trying to iron themselves out. David Goyette, he leads the team in scoring, but he has 2 goals, 7 assists. He's been more of a playmaker this year in the 7 games that he's played. So I expect to see, I think, with Quentin Musty back, the points will start to even build up further with David Goyette and company. And leading the team in goals right now is Nick Yearwood. I don't think anyone was expecting Yearwood to be the leading goal scorer at this point, but that's where we're at. And Nick Yearwood and company, we'll see what the Sudbury Wolves can do. So they're at number 8. Sitting at number 7, I have the Barrie Colts. The week started off pretty rough. They lost 8-0 to the Kitchener Rangers and then came home and defeated Oshawa 7-1. So they wanted a big bounce back. And Connor Punnett, the captain of the Barrie Colts, had a great quote in his article over the weekend saying that the sun will rise and it'll be a new day. And oh boy, was it ever. Maybe Connor Punnett, a bit of a philosopher with the Barrie Colts. But what really impressed me from that game Saturday was Cole Baudouin recording his first career OHL hat trick. The second-year forward, really showing his development from last year. Last year, a little hesitant maybe in those battles in the corner, but over the season last year, you could see he was taking those steps forward. And this year, really getting things done. And now the Barrie Colts will prepare for a 3-3 this weekend. Starts at home Thursday against the Flint Firebirds before visiting the Guelph Storm Friday and then hosting Sudbury on Saturday. Then number 6, the Kitchener Rangers. I feel like I should have this team higher. After that loss against Saginaw when they lost 8-2, it seemed like maybe the Rangers were brought back to earth, but don't tell them that. Their coaching staff has them playing an amazing system right now. 2-0, outscoring their opponents over the weekend, 19-2. Kitchener was unreal over the weekend and included that 11-2 win over Windsor. Carson Rakoff, the guy had an amazing preseason, and it's just continuing into the regular season. 5 goals in 2 games, including a hat trick against the Barrie Colts. And then you've got Hunter Prustevich. He's riding a 4-game goal scoring streak for Kitchener, and that also includes 4 assists over that span. And the Rangers, they're going to be in Mississauga this Saturday, which could be the game of the week. So that's a 4 p.m. start at the Paramount Fine Food Center. If you have a chance to tune into that game, you probably won't be disappointed because these are 2 teams right now playing really good hockey going head-to-head in Mississauga. Coming in at number 5, I'm sure this is going to surprise some people. I have the Sarnia Sting. They might seem a little high, but I think they've earned some pretty big wins against big teams, including the London Knights. They went 1-1 over the weekend. They also got the 1 win against the Sioux Greyhounds. That was Sault Ste. Marie's first loss of the season last weekend. So for Sarnia, they're a team that's got the offense. They're scoring the goals. Florida Panthers prospect, Sandis Vilmanis, he's riding a 6-game point streak and leads the team in scoring with 10 points. So for the Sarnia Sting, I think a lot of people were expecting them to maybe miss the playoffs in the Western Conference, but don't tell the Sarnia Sting that. They're playing like a team that's just got nothing to lose, and they're out there having fun. So they do have a road trip this weekend to Niagara and Erie, so you never know. The Sarnia Sting, they could get a couple more wins and climb up the power rankings a little bit more. Number 4, I have the Sioux Greyhounds. Last week when I put together a power rankings that I didn't post, I had Sault Ste. Marie at number 1. Now I've got them dropped to number 4 because they had a setback this weekend. They went 0-2, losses against Ottawa and Owen Sound. Both teams, they just shut down the Hounds' high-flying offense. They were flying right off the hop with 37 goals for coming into the weekend. And this one, they could only manage 1 goal, and that was against Ottawa. So the Greyhounds, they're going to head east this weekend, so that's going to be a tough road trip. Stops including Peterborough, Kingston, And then Ottawa, and of course the 67s just beat the Sioux Greyhounds this past weekend 2-1. So we'll see what's in store in that rematch as the Greyhounds try and turn things around after that amazing start to the season. They went 5-1, and now they're down to 5-3. So we'll see what they can do. Coming in at number 3, I have the North Bay Battalion. North Bay, they went 1-1 over the weekend. They lost 4-2 at home to the Ottawa 67s before winning on the road 5-2 against the Oshawa Generals. Owen Van Steensel getting the hat trick on the road against Oshawa. So for North Bay, don't hit the panic button yet. I know some people think they're overachieving right now, riding Dom DiVincentis, but I think this team, if they can continue to get the goal scoring, you've got the goaltending, you got the defense. This North Bay team, they can make some waves in the Central Division. They have a big game at home Thursday night against Mississauga. So that's going to be a big rivalry game and maybe a sense of who's going to represent who has a chance to represent the Central Division going forward. Coming in at number 2, the London Knights. London, they went 2-1 with an overtime win against Peterborough. They blew out Kingston 8-1 before losing to Sarnia on the road. So for London, this is a very skilled team. They just got Easton Cowan back from the Toronto Maple Leafs, and he scored in his regular season debut and then added 2 goals and 3 assists in 3 games. So Easton Cowan fitting in nicely, and that's why the London Knights, they are a threat this year. Last week in my power ranking, I put them at number 3. So I'm moving them up to number 2 now after the Sioux Greyhounds took that drop. But watch out for London. The London Knights are going to play the Saginaw Spirit for the first time this year on Sunday, and that's going to be at the Dow Event Center. So that's another big game this weekend that'll be worth tuning into to see who comes out of that, because early season picks, London and Saginaw were the top 2 picks for the Western Conference, and we'll see what those 2 teams have in store. And after all that, leaves us with number 1 team in the OHL Power Ranking. I have the Mississauga Steelheads. They went 3-0 over the weekend with wins against Guelph, Saginaw, and Erie. They're riding a 4-game winning streak right now. Luke Misa had a 5-point game against Erie, including a hat trick. I know that for Mississauga, they may have had an easier schedule to start the year with games. They've already had 3 games against the Erie Otters, plus matches against Niagara and Brantford. But this is a team I think that people are maybe underestimating a little bit. They also have some amazing goaltending with Ryerson Leanders. He's off to an incredible start, a 1.67 goals against average and 953 save percentage. So this Mississauga team, you cannot take lightly. They have a big test, though, this weekend. They have a pair of road games Wednesday and Thursday in Sudbury and North Bay, so 2 big division matchups before hosting the Kitchener Rangers on Saturday. So for Mississauga, I have them as the number 1 team right now in the OHL Power Rankings, and it's just too bad that they're not getting the fan support right now at the Paramount Fine Food Center. They had about 1,400 fans there the other night when Saginaw was in town, which is kind of disappointing. You've got this marquee team coming into Mississauga, and the fans just not coming out to see that talent. But I know that's a topic for another day because attendance has always been an issue, it seems, with Mississauga hockey teams. But right now, if you're a Steelheads fan, let me know how excited you are about this year. Is the team overperforming your expectations, meeting expectations, or let me know your comments. Do you think they're a little too high, or who do you think should be the number 1 team in the OHL Power Rankings? Love to see your comments. You can put them down below in the comments section. Remember to hit like and subscribe to get notifications about future videos as we continue to follow along the OHL regular season. And tomorrow, I'll actually be doing an interview with a member of the broadcast crew from the Sudbury Wolves as we're getting set for the first Barrie-Sudbury matchup coming up this weekend. So stay tuned for that. So again, thank you very much for tuning in to the OHL Power Rankings, and we'll talk to you again soon.